most IPOs are structured as what's referred to as a firm commitment IPO. And in the firm commitment, what typically happens is the underwriter will buy up the entire issue of shares at around what the potential offer, what the offer price is actually supposed to be. So the underwriter buys up the entire issue at the offer price, and what this does is it guarantees the sale of shares, so the issue cannot fail, since the underwriter has already said we're going to buy up all these shares. So that puts the onus on the underwriter to make sure that they're pricing this deal properly, so that once they bought up all the shares, the clients that they have will be willing to buy the shares from them at the proper price. So this is the most common IPO method. Largely because of the safety that it provides for the IPO firm. There are actually other types of IPOs. The firm commitment is actually the most expensive method for the issuing company. But despite it being the most expensive, it's still the most common because of the safety that it provides for the issuing firm. So the spread on an IPO is the fee structure that the underwriter builds into the IPO. The spread is the fee that the underwriter charges as a percentage of the IPO price. This fee that underwriters charge is, for a fee for undergoing the book building process, and for setting up the price of the IPO. Basically, all the work that they do in the IPO process, they're able to get paid because of this spread. And so, this spread is something that you would see on the prospectus for the issuing firm. Part of what you'll see is actually the proceeds that that the share issuer gets are slightly below the offer price. So when it says the underwriter buys up the entire issue at the offer price, it's really the offer price less the spread. So essentially, they'll pay a little bit below the offer price as part of the fees that they're charging to facilitate this IPO process. Now, the part of what may be built into the issue is an overallotment allocation, which is also referred to as a green shoe provision. What this overallotment allocation does is it allows the underwriter to actually issue more shares in addition to what's actually in the final prospectus. Usually, the common structure is that it'll be up to 15% of the original offer size. The price still follows the typical IPO price, and so this over allotment allocation allows the underwriter to issue more shares at the IPO price, usually up to 15% more shares. There's some debate as to whether or not this over allotment allocation benefits the underwriter more than the issuing firm. Because the underwriter has the incentive to get these 15% more shares out, because for all of those shares they still would collect the spread. So essentially, increasing the offer size means they get more money because they get to collect the spread. Uh, uh, but another part of the over allotment allocation is that it's also there to potentially create some stability in the issuing firm's shares. So there's debate as to who this benefits the most. The underwriter does have the incentive to issue more shares so that they can collect so that they can collect the spread. But in many cases, I mean, that's part of the price of doing business. The firm knows that that over allotment allocation is there when they're going through the issuance process. So, once this so we want to know what happens after IPO completion. And when the IPO is complete, the issuer's stock trades publicly. Typically what happens originally after the IPO is that the shares are placed with financial institutions who pay the underwriter. Once those shares are in the hands of financial institutions, they can trade them freely in public markets. The lead underwriter ensures that there's a market for the stock. Matching buyers and sellers together to ensure that the stock is liquid. This benefits the company as well as the underwriter's customers who bought the shares in the first place. And so if you ensure that the stocks are liquid from the underwriter's perspective, if you ensure that the stocks are liquid, you'll be able to use those same customers for future IPOs. One part that frequently exists as part of an IPO is what's referred to as a lockup period. And the lockup essentially is a provision that prevents certain large shareholders from selling their shares for a given period of time. Usually, this is 180 days that the lockup period exists, and there are some really good reasons for the lockup to exist. So, what this is going to do is it's going to prevent really large shareholders from flooding the market with more shares. So why do we want to prevent insiders from selling too many shares? One reason is that insider selling can be viewed as a negative signal about the value of the company's shares. If you see someone who's an insider, by insiders, it's like the company's top managers who may have a lot of shares. If they start selling, it's going to signal that they don't really have any confidence in the value of the shares. They went public to cash out, and so basically it looks like they tried to dupe the public. So that's one reason that you could restrict selling from insiders, is that you don't want those negative signals. Even in the absence of those signals, just a lot of selling in general is going to depress a company's stock price. Whether it's insiders or not, a lot of sales pressure can result in a lower stock price. And so you want to make sure that in this IPO process, the value of the stock is preserved. So in the end, that lockup can help make sure that shares are being priced properly by markets. You don't have any negative signals by insiders, and you don't have any excess selling pressure to drop the company's share price right after they first went public.